In today's video, meet a rat the size of a dog, and an insect whose sheer size makes most people consider it a monster. The largest animal ever. Let's start off this list with the obvious, shall we? With an average length of 33 meters and a weight of up to 200 tons, the blue whale is the largest animal in existence. They're so massive that their tongues alone weigh as much as an adult elephant. But these largest of all creatures feed on some of the tiniest marine organisms. They live pretty much exclusively off of krill, a tiny shrimp-like creature, and they swallow them by the ton. In fact, a single blue whale gulps down up to 4 tons of krill in a single day. Aside from their size, they're known to be very vocal and are actually the loudest animals in the world. They're also very fast, swimming at 20 miles an hour when agitated. They often spend their summer cooling off and feeding in the polar regions to go back near the equator in winter to mate. Sad thing is, whaling significantly reduced their numbers. Currently, they belong to the endangered species list, and they only received protection from whaling in 1967. And since we know so little about them, we actually don't know how many are still alive in the wild. The biggest rodent. You think New York City's sewer rats are big? Don't get me wrong, they're terrifyingly large, but even the largest of them can't compare to the largest rodent in the world. Bring in the capybara, which grows to as much as 4.6 feet long, 2 feet tall, and weighs up to 174 pounds. They kind of look like guinea pigs, but are way bigger. The capybara are brownish in color, with short hair, blunt snout, short legs, small ears, and a really short tail. They're native to remote areas from Venezuela to northern Argentina and even the Amazon River. They live in forests and wetlands along riverbanks and lake shores, diving and swimming to avoid predators, mainly jaguars and anacondas. They normally feed in the morning and evening, but during the day they just rest or they're sleeping. Unfortunately, dwindling habitats have forced these giant rodents to venture into human-populated areas, making them a nuisance for farmers. The largest amphibian. Some say that fried frog's legs taste like chicken. But in the case of the Goliath frog, they don't taste like chickens, but they are as big as chickens. These frogs are the largest of all amphibians, growing to more than 13 inches long, excluding their legs, and weigh up to 7 pounds. It doesn't start out so big, though. The Goliath frog tadpole is the same size as the tadpole of an average frog, but it just keeps growing and growing. We know very little about their biology, but some parts of the world have already found out that they make for an excellent meal. They actually live in small ranges in the rainforest at the equator of Western Africa, near swift-moving rivers and waterfalls. They come out at night to find food, and adult Goliath frogs eat pretty much anything. Insects, crustaceans, fish, and even other amphibians are game. One researcher even found a bat in the stomach of one of these giants. The biggest arthropod. Arthropods, a group of animals with hard, shell-like exteriors, make up the largest animal group on Earth. This group includes spiders, insects, and basically all other armored creatures on both land and sea. Because of how they've evolved, these guys have a limit as to how much they can grow, which is probably a memo that the first animal on our list didn't receive. The Japanese spider crab is the undisputed largest of all arthropods, with the largest on record boasting a leg span of 12.5 feet. It gets to that enormous size by feeding on algae, kelp, mollusks, slow-moving invertebrates, which are probably the only live animals that it can catch, and yes, for this big guy, hunting is the last option. They do enjoy scavenging of the carcasses that litter the ocean floor, though, cleaning up the ocean as they go. Without these guys and other creatures that feed on the dead, the ocean would become an unlivable cesspool in no time flat. The spider crab itself makes for a great meal and is somewhat of a delicacy in Asian countries. The largest marsupial. Measuring up to 5.3 feet from head to rump and boasting a tail that can grow to around 4 feet long, the red kangaroo is the largest living marsupial in the entire world. And tipping the scales at around 200 pounds, it's also the heaviest. They live in Australia's deserts and open grasslands, garnering in groups called mobs. While millions of these animals do roam Australia, considerable numbers are killed each year for their skin and meat, which is becoming a very popular human food. Red kangaroos hop along on their powerful hind legs and do so at great speeds. That speed is actually about 35 miles an hour. Their bounding gait allows them to cover 25 feet in a single leap and to jump 6 feet high as well. These extremely strong animals are also not ones to mess around with. Larger male kangaroos are powerfully built and will fight other males for potential mates. Often they lean back on their sturdy tail and box each other with their strong hind legs. Kangaroos can also bite and do wield sharp claws, which they may do in battle with an enemy like a dingo. Or, some unsuspecting human. The biggest insect. If a cockroach can make some full-grown humans panic, Imagine what one of these giants would make them do. Considered to be the largest insect on the planet, the Titan beetle grows up to 6 inches long, not including its antenna. They live deep in the tropical rainforest in South America, especially North Brazil, Colombia, Peru, Ecuador, and the Guineas. However, most of the titans we see these days come from French Guiana. Little is known about their biology. We know that as larvae, they feed on decaying wood buried underground. However, nobody really knows what they eat when they reach adulthood. In fact, it's not known whether they eat at all. The consensus is that, like other beetle species, they simply don't eat as adults at all, subsisting solely on the calories that they stored while they were still larvae. They're not aggressive, but will actively defend themselves when threatened. They defend themselves with sharp spines and jaws strong enough to break a pencil, dent a plastic ruler, or cut a person's flesh, of course. So don't mess with it. The largest fish. At an average of 18 feet, with some growing to 32.8 feet or more and weighing as much as 20.6 tons, the whale shark is the biggest living fish on the planet today. Thriving in tropical seas, the whale sharks are found off the coast of Australia, the Philippines, Bali, Indonesia, and other such breathtaking locations. They're characterized by a flattened head with a blunt snout, are gray in color with brown and white spots, as well as pale vertical and horizontal stripes, with a white belly, of course. Thankfully, the whale shark is known as the gentle giant of the seas, as it's the most docile fish that feeds on plankton, tiny plants, and any fish which happen to be swimming at the wrong place and at the wrong time. The whale shark scoops up their food with their gaping mouths as they swim close to the water's surface. A shark that's not to be feared, the whale shark is actually so friendly that they even allow swimmers to swim alongside them or even hitch a ride.
Now it's time for the day's best pick.
Which is not only the biggest of its kind, it's also the most feared. The biggest reptile. The saltwater kronk is the largest living reptile, growing to an average length of 17 feet, but can reach up to 23 feet and weigh an average of 1,000 to 2,200 pounds. This fearsome reptile lives in brackish mangrove swamps, rivers, and large bodies of water connected to the sea. Their ability to hold their breath underwater for long periods of time, coupled with extensive patience to lurk just beneath the water's edge, makes them perfect ambush predators. Once prey is within striking distance, they use their powerful tails to burst out of the water, snatching their hapless victims with their powerful jaws. Those jaws are the strongest bite force ever recorded in the entire animal kingdom, and their jaws can pretty much handle any prey. This includes water buffaloes, monkeys, wild boars, and even sharks that fall victim to their insatiable hunger. It will then drag its meal back to the water to drown, swallowed whole if small enough, or torn into pieces if not. As powerful and adept as they are in water, though, the saltwater crocodile can only move at 9 miles per hour on land, which thankfully is slow enough for us humans to avoid being this giant reptile's next meal. The biggest bird. The biggest flying bird is the wandering albatross, but when it comes to sheer size, no other bird can beat the ostrich. They can grow to an average of 10 feet tall and can weigh as much as 320 pounds. They might not be able to take to the skies, but their top running speed of 44 miles per hour make them seem like flying, although low to the ground, of course. Often depicted in popular media to be timid birds who hide their heads in the sand to avoid danger, the truth is actually quite the opposite. Those legs, punctuated with 4-inch long talons, possess powerful kicks so strong they can inflict serious, sometimes even fatal injuries on any animal unlucky enough to cross their paths. Ostriches are omnivores and will happily feed on vegetation, small insects, snakes, lizards, and rodents. They can also survive without water for long periods of time, getting most of the moisture they need from the food that they eat.
Before we move on, I've got a little challenge for you that'll take 5 seconds to complete. So here's the deal. You just leave a like on this video, smash that subscribe button and hit the notification bell, and you will get 25 years of amazing luck. Try it, it really works.
The biggest land animal. The African elephant is as big as they come, up to 13 feet tall and weighing up to 15,000 pounds. Those dimensions are enough to make it the largest land animal living today. And to grow to that size, an elephant must consume up to 300 pounds of roots, grass, fruit, and tree bark in a single day. African elephants follow a matriarchal society and are led by females as they're usually the biggest and the oldest, leading the herd and in control over a number of generations made up mostly of females and their young, while the adult males have loose associated groups. In spite of their size, humans seem to have no fear of them, hunting them to near extinction for their tusks for the illegal ivory trade. The conversion of their natural habitat into agricultural and commercial use also diminishes their already dwindling food sources, forcing the elephants to seek other food sources, which often result into hostile interactions with humans. See you all next time!